Hey everybody, it's Troy, Roadside RC. If you saw us in a recent video with our Arrma Outcast 8S, you will know that we drove it a little bit after we got it, and we've had a lot of issues with it. So we have some repairs to do. We have to put a new wing mount on it. We're putting in a new CVD shaft because one of them is super broken. The other thing that we're doing though is we need to make this doesn't look right, does it? No, we need to make that not bent anymore. So we have some of these ARA 330574 shock shafts. Now my understanding, these of course are just the stock Arrma replacement. My understanding is there's a chance that depending on how big of jumps we do, stuff like that, they're gonna end up looking like this again. And with the truck as heavy as this is, what we really need to do is get some M2C shock shafts. But man, I want to get this truck up and running again. I want to get it up here pretty quick. So I'm going to just put these stock pieces right back in it. And so today we are going to be taking this shock apart, putting these new shock shafts in it, checking out the overall shock as we do. And so we're going to show you how to do this. So follow along. All right, as we get started, first thing we got to do is get this end cap off of there so it slides off to the side. Spring has to come off of this bent piece. All right, now we're going to get this rod end off of here. So I have this pair of dynamite pliers. They work really well for holding the shock shaft and not actually marring it up. Ooh, and that's going to be a stiff one, so I'm going to use a small screwdriver. All right, on the other end here, got to get this cap off. I'm going to hold it up so that the fluid all doesn't come out on me. Along with the cap, I'm going to dump that fluid out. Fluid's out. Now what I want to do is I just want to push this back through here so I can pull the whole piston out of the shock. Of course, it's not going to let me. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use the vise to help straighten this up at least a little bit. And then there's the magic. So once I straightened that out enough, I was actually able to just tap it down and it popped right out the top. So now what we need to do is we need to get, obviously we need to transfer over this piston and screw to the new one. Again, that's not going to be very difficult. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to hold on to it with those shock pliers. We're going to watch out in case there's any spacers or washers here. So there's one nut, piston comes off, and you see there's a little washer on the bottom there, so make sure you capture that. Okay, I've simply done exactly that. I've actually just swapped that over from the old shaft to the new shaft. Looking all good. We're going to slide this in here, but before we do, we're going to get our oil. Now I have this PT Racing shock oil left over. It's 500 CST. This is what Arrma says comes in the shock stock. Obviously you can tune your shock how you want, right? So if you go lower weight oil, the shock will move easier. So maybe over quick bumps, if you're doing a lot of runs in fields, that kind of thing. If you're doing a whole bunch of jumps, maybe you want to go thicker. Honestly, for right now, we're just going to keep it stock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to coat just a little bit on this shaft before I put it in there. So it's going to come through this bottom seal here, and I want to make sure it's not dry as it goes through there. So in that goes. Works a whole lot better than that bent shaft, of course. All right, and like I said, now we have to make the final decision now of what oil do we want to put in it. I am going to just put this 500 back in it. As you may imagine, it takes a little bit, right? It takes a little bit of oil for this one. Now once it's in there, we're going to pump this back and forth a little bit. Our goal is to get any bubbles out of that oil as possible. But one of the things I always suggest, leave this sit here for a few minutes. Let's see if any bubbles do come out. All right, and now you can rebuild your shocks in various rebound levels. So where you have the shock sitting in the thing versus when you put the diaphragm in helps to determine where that shock wants to sit. So if you have it fully extended when you put this diaphragm in, it's going to want to naturally kind of come back to that fully extended height. If you want it to be kind of a lower down, it's going to naturally want to kind of pull back. This diaphragm is going to help pull it back to this position. I'm going to put it at an almost fully extended height. All right, now as I put this diaphragm in here, I'm going to slide it in from the side. I'm going to push a little bit of oil out as it goes because it's full. And you can actually hear it seal in there. It actually sealed. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and get the cap on. Okay, this is all back on, cleaned up now, and I want to show you something about with that diaphragm and what I was talking about. So here's its new natural shock length. As I push this in, watch that piston. See how that piston comes back out? That's that diaphragm sealed appropriately, no air in the system, diaphragm sealed appropriately, and it's going to push this back out. If you extend it out, it's a little bit harder on the extension side for it to pull it back in. But this is actually, you'll notice, no springs on it or anything. So that's how you know that you got your shock system up here sealed appropriately. All right, now pretty simple. We're going to screw this back on, put this cap back on, put this rod end back in, and then our shock system is done. All right, look, there we are. One freshly rebuilt Outcast 8S shock ready to go back on the truck. So was this helpful for you? Please let me know down in the comments. I always like to make these videos, but I'm hoping somebody out there is actually getting some use out of them. So thank you very much. Hey, if this was helpful, please leave a comment, subscribe, consider subscribing, liking. Hey, it's free. You can do it. It doesn't cost anything. We have lots of other videos and stuff that we've done, so come over here, check out some other ones. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate your time. Talk to you later. Goodbye.